Hello and welcome back to another episode of Geek with Glasses Live. With the forthcoming WWDC conference out in the Bay Area, scheduled for June 11th, I wanted to take a few minutes and kind of talk about some of the rumors that are out there as far as what we may or may not see coming out of the WWDC, the Worldwide Development Conference. Out in the Bay Area. You know, it's coming up pretty soon. Rumors are starting to fly around like crazy with just under a month away for the event. And I wanted to kind of talk about some of those rumors and my personal opinions on, you know, what those rumors may or may not be. I'm not necessarily going to forecast what I think Apple is going to do with some of these rumors that are out there, but I just wanted to kind of talk about my opinions on, you know, some of the specs that we're hearing and some of the things that you can find out on the internet today in regards to what will be announced next month. So, first and foremost, obviously this is an Apple fanboy or a fangirl type video based on WWDC, but when you really think about it, if you're a fan of technology in general, you kind of take note to what goes on at the WWDC because typically, you know, there's some pretty big announcements that actually change technology as we know it. I mean, if you think about the iPad, not the iPad, but the iPod and the iPhone specifically, you know, Apple made huge changes in the world of technology when it comes to, you know, music and how we consume content with that medium, as well as, you know, the phone technology that we're seeing today, whether it be put out by, you know, at the Apple vendor or any of the other competitive vendors, Nokia, Motorola, BlackBerry, so on and so forth. You know, Apple is kind of setting the precedence with what comes out with, you know, these announcements at WWDC. So let's take a couple of minutes and briefly talk about some of the rumors. I'm going to be looking down every now and then because I've got my notes of stuff that I want to talk about on my iPad. But let's go ahead and start off with, you know, the announcement of potentially new MacBook Pros being announced. And I think this is cool. You know, I've had a unibody Mac since the initial release of the unibody design in 2008, and it's definitely time for an update to the product line, whether it be just guts or form factor. You know, so right now the rumor is that they're looking at a more you know, thin design that kind of mimics the current MacBook Air line that is out there. That's a cool feature. I like that. However, they are talking about to achieve that thinner design with the MacBook Pros, they're going to take out the optical drive, and they're also going to take out Ethernet. And you know, again, these are all just rumors. These are not facts. I just want to reiterate that these are rumors. So my opinion on the optical drive, no big deal. I don't care. I've got plenty of USB optical drives that I could plug in if I need to copy content, you know, via a CD onto my machine. Plus, it's going to make it that much lighter. It's not going to significantly reduce the weight, but, you know, taking that optical drive out is definitely going to reduce the weight of the machine. So that's a good thing for me, considering I always carry two laptops every time I go anywhere for travel. I got a work laptop and then my Mac laptop. So now, I do have some concerns about the no Ethernet. So if they remove Ethernet, you know, I use everything in my house is hardwired other than, you know, here in this office. I've got about 8 machines and they're all gigi wired. You know, if you take away Ethernet, then I'm going to be stuck with 802.11n, which is 100 megabit, you know, across the wire. I'm not real happy with that. That's one of the reasons why I ran a 25-foot cable for gigi so that I can do lots of, you know, high-speed file transfers. If Apple is going to adopt the new 802.11 AC, which actually will allow you know, a full gigabyte in dual band mode, a full gigabyte Ethernet over the air, then that would be cool. However, I still want that, you know, no interference from cell phones, no interference from pagers, no interference from other wireless devices, you know, dedicated broadband capability with an actual gigi cable plugged into my machine. So I'm not real happy if they take the Ethernet out, but it's probably not going to make that big of a deal for too many people, except for the hardcore gearheads. USB 3.0 is a big rumor as well, which I think this is nice. However, I think it's interesting how, you know, they announced Thunderbolt a couple of last year at WWDC. The new Thunderbolt port is out. You know, it's multi-platform supported, so you can plug in monitors, you can plug in external hard drives, you can plug in all these myriads of devices. And Thunderbolt is rumored to have a 10 gigabit bandwidth through that port. USB 3.0 is known to do 5 gigabits. So you know, the Thunderbolt is twice as fast as USB 3.0, but Thunderbolt just isn't standard right now in the industry. In fact, I was looking online just the other day for Thunderbolt drives. I currently have all of my video content that I offload when I make my videos on a FireWire 800, and I was looking at upgrading to a Thunderbolt because FireWire 800 is only 800 megabits per second, whereas Thunderbolt is 10 gig. You're still looking at $500 for a 250 to a 500, you know, gigabit Thunderbolt external hard drive. You know, $500 for 250 gigabyte. I mean, I've got a 1 terabyte drive. You know, people that do a lot of videography, we definitely need those larger sized hard drives, and Thunderbolt is just not standardized enough to where the price point has dropped. So the USB 3.0 I think will be a happy medium. But again, I think it's kind of contradictory. They're going to go ahead and give us USB 3.0, but we also have Thunderbolt. I really hope Thunderbolt takes on and becomes a lower cost price point just because of the bandwidth capabilities of that port. So USB 3.0 is 5 gigabits, USB 2.0 is 480 megabytes. So they claim it's a 10 times speed improvement. Obviously, we all know that 10 times speed improvement is going to be based on optimal settings. Having a very fast writing hard drive, having a lot of RAM to actually copy that information. So in real world, maybe we'll see maybe 4 or 5 times faster speed differences with that upgrade to USB 3.0 over USB 2.0. The other cool thing that I'm looking forward to is Retina Display. So we're hearing all the hype. We've got Retina on the iPad HD or the iPad 2 and the new iPads that have come out, the new iPad. And obviously we now have Retina screens on our iPhones. And I really think the Retina screen, that pixel density is going to be beautiful. Like I've got a glossy MacBook Pro, and I love the screen. I wish it was a higher resolution screen. However, I know that even if they don't necessarily jam higher resolution, but they put more pixels in there, I'm going to get that much crisper of an image for doing photo editing, video editing. It's just going to look beautiful. Already, the backlit displays on the MacBooks are already, amazing looking. So that's a plus. I'm looking forward to a Retina screen. The other big rumor, which is most likely, in my opinion, if it were to happen, one thing was going to happen. They're going to go to the Ivy Bridge processors. So Ivy Bridge is a huge step up from Sandy Bridge. To quote information off of the Intel site, Ivy Bridge is up to 15% faster than the Sandy Bridge technology. So if you were to take equivalent, say 3 gigahertz Ivy Bridge versus Sandy Bridge, you're going to get about 15% performance increase. One of the big pluses that Ivy Bridge brings to the mix is the GPU performance. Now, this actually kind of makes me think. So currently, the MacBook Pros have two video options. You've got a built-in Intel chip that's on the motherboard, right? Intel graphics, and then you've got a dedicated graphics card. My machine has a AMD, which is essentially Intel, but it's a dedicated graphics platform with dedicated RAM. So the Ivy Bridge capable motherboard, the Ivy Bridge capable processors, as quoted from the Intel site, up to 68% faster GPU performance. So if it's going to give me 68% faster GPU performance based on the chipset that's embedded into the motherboard, then are they going to still give me that optional dedicated graphics card in the future MacBooks or iMacs or whatever platform? If you're going to get 68% faster improvement, do I need a dedicated graphics chip in my MacBook? I say yes, because occasionally I like to play games while I'm traveling on my MacBook, and I want that dedicated graphics card that has dedicated RAM specifically for it. But at the same time, for the majority of users out there, I'm not necessarily sure that we need that. I'm not necessarily sure that the general consumer has to have that secondary graphics chip embedded into the system with dedicated RAM. If the Ivy Bridge actually can deliver up to 68%, that's 70% performance improvement in graphics. So we'll see exactly what that graphics chip actually brings us, and I'm excited to see the differences. The other thing that makes me excited is Ivy Bridge processors are capable of playing back 4K video. So anybody out there who does videography, whether it be blogging or actually home movies or cinematography, or just high definition blogging or documentary filmmakers, anybody who is using their MacBook to do film editing, this is a huge, huge thing. Being able to actually play back and edit 4K video would be amazing. So I'm looking forward to seeing what that. Imagine 4K video that you've shot on a 4K camera and then importing it, editing it, and having a Retina display to play it back on. Amazing. That would be so awesome. I'm seriously looking forward to that. So thinner design, to recap, thinner design, Ivy Bridge processors, Retina display, no optical drive, no Ethernet, couple of from what I've seen on some of the mock-up photos, and again, we can't necessarily trust mock-up photos, 3 Thunderbolt ports and 3 USB 3.0 ports are going to be adorning the sides of these new MacBooks if they're designed the way that they're being speculated. So that kind of covers the new MacBook Pros. Hopefully we'll see a change and we'll see some new iMacs and we'll see other things like that. But we're also looking at potentially hearing some information about the new iPhone, the iPhone 5, whether that comes out and is announced at WWDC or whether they're actually going to hold off and display that at a new conference, a specialized iPhone conference. I can't really speculate on whether or not they'll do that. It may be, because I would assume that the new iPhones aren't going to be coming out until later in the year, where they used to do the June annual recycle. We're probably looking at a later in the year recycle now, like October or September timeframe. So iPhone 5, the big rumors on that, 4-inch display, which would be nice. Finally, we're going to get a little bit bigger of a display screen. A smaller dock port on the bottom. They're looking at going away from these big 25-pin, I believe they're 25-pin, wide docks into a smaller dock, and they're talking about potentially rolling that off into all of the iDevices. So all your new iPads, all your new iPods, and future iPhones will have this smaller dock port. Could be a design implementation, not necessarily sure. Home button or not home button. I personally, if I were to speculate on a rumor, I would say it's going to have a home button. Otherwise, how are you going to be able to do hardware resets of the phone? How are you going to be able to, put it into developer mode, for those people who are out there and jailbreaking their phones? But specifically, Apple has built those 2 buttons in to do hardware resets, just like, the iPad and the iPods. If you want to do hardware resets, and if the machine locks, if the device locks up, you have to hold those 2 buttons down to do a hardwire reset. I just don't see them getting rid of the home button. And honestly, I like having a physical button to touch. I don't like always having to touch a specific area on the screen or just having that top button. So I think the home button is still going to be there. Again, will we see it in September? Will we see it in October? Right now, the big rumor that is kind of circulating, and the most current rumor, is that we'll see an October release for the phone. There has been some speculation that they're going to actually discuss it at WWDC and potentially release it in June. I just don't see that happening, but you never know. And the reason being is because of the life cycle, the annual refresh cycle for the phone carriers. They just released on the Verizon and the Sprint networks later in the year. So if you go and you try and upgrade to an iPhone 5, you're going to be under 1 year usage. So we'll see. We'll see what they do with that. iOS 6. I'm part of the developer network. I have not seen a beta or an alpha or any kind of a preview for iOS 6. They may show their ideas and a concept and maybe some screen mock-ups or some very preliminary beta operating system of iOS 6, but maybe we'll hear about the iOS 6. And honestly, some of the things that I personally would like to see out of iOS 6, if they announce iOS 6 at WWDC, would be a new interface. I like the interface. It's smooth, it's easy, everybody knows how to use the interface on an iPhone and an iPad. However, I would like to see it more integrated, more multimedia feel. I'm not going to say more Android feel, I'm going to say more multimedia, more interactive feel. I'd like to see active wallpapers, I'd like to see widgets. I really love on Android the fact that I can have a clock widget, a weather widget, an email widget, and get notifications right on my screen that are active and showing me what's going on. Instead of actually having to open a weather app or drag down for the notification center to see the weather, I can just hit the button to unlock, and right on my unlock screen I can see weather. Obviously we can do these things with jailbreaking, but I want it to be inherent to the operating system. One of the big concerns is, well, we can put active widgets on the wallpaper or desktop, but then we kill our battery life. So battery life has always been an issue with Apple. They've always dealt with battery life and battery longevity with their devices. And honestly, my question to Apple is, if everybody else can give me 5-inch displays with active widgets and have all-day battery life, why can't Apple do it? So let's see what they do with that. And I would like to to see that. Unibody casing is another rumor. Honestly, I'd love to see it. As much as I like the design implementation of the current iPhones with the glass on the front and the back, it's just too fragile. You have to have a case on this phone to protect it. If you drop it, you're going to shatter either the front or the back. Give me a unibody case, stainless steel back with a glass cover, and I've got more protection inherently by the phone. I don't necessarily have to have a case. I have a little bit more grippy, tactile feel to the phone. So I think a unibody would be cool. I'd like to see a unibody. And then obviously 4G LTE. For AT&T. Hopefully we'll see actual 4G LTE for any new iPhone device that may or may not be announced at WWDC. So, and the one last thing is I would assume that we're going to see Mountain Lion previews. So I've been playing with Mountain Lion. I've got it on my MacBook. I'm not going to talk too much about it. I do like it. I haven't seen any vast performance increases over Lion or even Snow Leopard. A couple of the new iOS integration type things are pretty cool. The way you can swipe and on the right-hand side get a notification center view, kind of like with the iPads. You swipe down from the top and you get your notification. Same thing happens now with Mountain Lion, where you can get a notification, only it appears on the right-hand side of the screen. Plenty of videos out on the web for that. I also like the notification center. not the notification center, but the alerts, built-in alerts for things like Twitter, email, software being installed, software completion, that type of stuff. So those are the 4 main topics, in my opinion, that we're going to see in the keynote. We're going to see new MacBooks, I hope, and what we discussed: thinner, lighter, no optical, USB 3.0 Retina display, Ivy Bridge processors, iPhone 5, 4-inch screen, even higher density Retina display, smaller dock, home button, September, October release, iOS 6, maybe, maybe not, and Mountain Lion. So those are my opinions on the rumors that are currently out there for WWDC. I'd like to hear your opinions, and I'd like to hear what you would like to see out of WWDC this year. It'll be interesting to see what's happening. We got a little more, just under a month to wait to see the major announcements. And again, like I said, whether you're an Apple fanboy or girl or not, WWDC is important for the tech industry as a whole, because a lot of times those just one more things, if they even continue to do those without Steve Jobs, they always bring something that drastically changes technology as we know it. So again, to reiterate, the iPod and the iPhone were just 2 that were drastically changing the way we manipulated current technology. So we'll see what happens in just under a month. Please rate, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think. If you have ideas for additional shows, if you want me to show off Mountain Lion a little bit before I actually get rid of the beta off my machine and go back to Lion, let me know what you think. And I appreciate you watching. And again, this is Neil, your Geek with Glasses. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.